Friday nights at Harper's Diner were supposed to be simple. Greasy pizza, garlic knots, the hum of conversations blending with the old jukebox. That's why I always picked table 7, me and my daughter Zoe. That was our little ritual after a long week. Pepperoni for me, cheese cut into tiny squares for her. She was 8. More interested in coloring dolphins and seahorses than in anything happening around her. It was supposed to be ordinary, one of those quiet nights that feels safe. But sometimes life doesn't care about your rituals. Sometimes it rips the rug out from under you in the space of 15 seconds. Zoe had just asked me if dolphins could live in rivers when the door opened. 3 men walked in. Not locals. Expensive suits, shiny shoes, moving with that kind of precision you don't see in a family diner. Right away, I knew they weren't here for the Friday special. I'd been Navy once, years ago. These days, I was a plumber with paint under my fingernails, a single dad who packed PB&J sandwiches and worried about overdue bills. But instincts like mine don't go away. And my instincts told me this night was about to turn ugly. Their target was easy to spot. A woman, mid-30s, sitting by the window, sharp suit, but her hands trembled every time she checked her phone, coffee untouched in front of her. I noticed her the second she walked in because she looked like someone running from something. And now these men were walking straight toward her, boxing her in like they'd rehearsed it. "Miss Alvarez," the tallest one said, sliding into her booth without asking. His tone was smooth, but it carried something rotten underneath. "You've been avoiding our calls." Her cup rattled as she set it down. "I told you I want nothing to do with this. Find another lawyer." He smiled, but it wasn't the kind that warms anybody. One of his buddies swept a plate off the table. It shattered against the wall inches from her face. The diner froze. Forks suspended, parents pulling kids closer, but nobody moved. Nobody wanted to step into that storm, except Zoe. She tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, why does that lady look so scared?" I'd promised myself she would never see the kind of violence I grew up in, never see what I became in uniform. But her eyes, they flipped a switch inside me. I pushed my chair back slowly, the scrape echoing across the room like a warning bell. "Excuse me," I said, voice calm, almost casual. "But I think you boys are ruining dinner for the rest of us." The leader turned, sizing me up. Just a plumber in work boots, tired eyes, paint-stained hands. He smirked. "Mind your business, pal. This is a private conversation." I took one step closer. "My business," I said, "is making sure my daughter finishes her pizza in peace, and your business looks like scaring women. That's a conflict of interest." It happened fast after that. 15 seconds, maybe less. He reached for me first. My hand shot out, twisted his wrist. Crack! He dropped screaming. The second lunged, but my elbow buried into his chest, knocking the wind out of him. The third reached inside his jacket, but I was already there. My grip crushed his wrist until whatever he had, gun, knife, didn't matter, clattered to the floor. A shove sent him sprawling into a table, hands raised in surrender. And then silence. Nothing but the groans of 2 men on the ground. And Zoe's crayon scratching across her coloring book. The woman in the booth stared at me like she'd seen a ghost. And maybe she had. For 3 years, I'd buried the part of myself that moved like that. Precise, unrelenting. My daddy was in. "The Navy," Zoe announced to the whole diner, like that explained everything. And maybe it did. The 3 men limped toward the door. The leader cradled his wrist, spat out a promise. "This isn't over." I met his eyes with a coldness that froze him mid-step. "Yes, it is." And he knew I meant it. Later, after the cops came and left with no real answers, the woman walked over. She slipped a card on our table, leaned close. "You moved like special forces. Navy, right?" I tightened my jaw. "I fix pipes," I muttered. "That's all?" But she didn't buy it. "My father was Captain Hector Alvarez. He died saving his team in Afghanistan. His final report said he saved a man named Petty Officer Daniel Hayes. That's you, isn't it? Her words dropped like an anchor in my chest. Captain Alvarez, her father, was the man who took a bullet meant for me. The man whose sacrifice I carried like a stone every single night. Her voice softened. He died because of faulty body armor, defective gear supplied by Victor Santoro. That's who those men work for. I've been building a case for 2 years. I can prove it. But I need help. And after tonight, you can't pretend you're just a plumber anymore. I wanted to say no. God, I wanted to grab Zoe, go home, lock the door, and hold on to our quiet life. But then Zoe looked up from her coloring book. Daddy, Captain Alvarez was a hero, right? And heroes help people, even when it's scary. I saw her mother's eyes in hers, and I knew hiding was no longer an option. If I help you, I told Elena, we do it my way. Zoe's safety comes first. The second I think she's in danger, I'm out. No arguments. She nodded. Deal. The months that followed were anything but ordinary. Elena's safe house became our second home. Zoe found joy in an art studio Elena hadn't used in years. For the first time in forever, she was laughing. Again, painting rainbows while I sat at a desk, digging into files I swore I'd never touch again. And me. Pieces of my old self slipped back into place. Mission planning, surveillance, connecting dots. Elena had been chasing for months. I hated it. I needed it. Both at once. We uncovered Santoro's network, shell companies, falsified reports, politicians, on the take. Every step forward put us in more danger. But every step also pulled me deeper into the fight I'd sworn off. I kept hearing Captain Alvarez's voice in my head. Strength isn't about how hard you hit. It's about who you're willing to stand for. 3 months later, in a federal courtroom, Victor Santoro stood in handcuffs. Prosecutors laid out everything. The defective body armor, the bribes, the 47 soldiers dead because of his greed. Families filled the seats, eyes wet, finally hearing the truth. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But all I heard was Zoe's voice beside me. Daddy, does this mean Captain Alvarez can rest now? I swallowed hard. Yeah, sweetheart, I think he can. As we walked down the courthouse steps, Elena asked, So what now? I looked at her, then at Zoe, skipping between us, her little hand clutching both of ours. Now, we go home. All of us. For the first time since my wife died, I believed in a future that was more than just survival. But here's the thing. Quiet never lasts. In that diner, in that courtroom, even in life, people always have opinions. Some called me a hero. Others whispered, I went too far. Zoe just thought her dad did what dads are supposed to do. So let me ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes that night? Sit back and wait for the cops? Or stand up and risk everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because stories like this, they're not just about me. They're about all of us. About the moments when the world looks the other way, and we get to decide if we'll do the same. And if you've ever seen someone underestimated, someone everybody thought was ordinary until the moment they weren't, tell me about it. Because those are the stories that remind us what real courage looks like.